Alchemy is in a similar spot to what we had in Dragonflight, but also we are getting something brand new, and that's Thaumaturgy, right? And Thaumaturgy is basically a new crafting system that's an addition to Transmutation. And what it says is this currently has no cooldown. You could just do it as much as you want at any point. And it says, attempt to perform a miracle with 20 materials of your choosing. This technique may yield new discoveries, but is highly destructive. And I've tried this a couple of times, and you can also use concentration here, depending on the kind of materials that you use, whether they're rank 1, whether they're rank 2, or whether they're rank 3. Obviously, depending on which one you use, the results may vary. But each one of these different materials will give you something different. And that's to the new, transmutation system. And what you're basically trying to do is getting to a point where you can turn some materials into another kind of material. But something that's a part of alchemy this time around are these, transmutation. And we have a couple of different ones. We have a volatile one, we have a mercurial one, and we have an ominous one, and then we have a gleaming one. The gleaming one is used for blasphemite, and blasphemite is the new diamond that in Dragonflight we used to get that through prospecting or whatever. But this is on a daily crafting cooldown, and it uses 80 of these gleaming transmutation. And the way that you get these is through basically doing multiple different kinds of transmutation and thaumaturgy. So if I were to say, okay, well, to figure that out, we look at all our options here. And right now, to be able to get these, right, the one option you have, from what I've been able to tell, to best be able to get these is this one, Ominous Transmutation. And you learn these recipes like you did in Dragonflight by doing experimentations, right? Wild experimentation and meticulous experimentation. That's kind of where you get that from. You get a little bit of recipes from the trainers, but that's what I've been able to figure out at least. And so far, this is the one that I've been able to see. Now, the other thing you can see here is this is also a daily crafting cooldown. There is a lot of specialization options here, but there's a lot of not yet implemented, and there's also certain talents that are not working. But from what I've been able to tell, there's nothing in these trees as of now from looking at it that increases how fast these recharge. And currently, these are on a daily crafting cooldown. So let's say that I want 80 of these gleaming transmutation if you want to make those diamonds in particular, and you're not going for files or flasks, because that's more like a permacraft thing. So you can craft however many you want of those. If we make one of these, right? And by the way, this is very particular. Because these are all on a shared cooldown. Every single one of these. So depending on what you're going for, if you're making files, if you're making flasks, if you want to turn one material into another, because you can see here you have a mercurial herbs thing, and you can use these other two transmutation. If I click on this one in particular, you're going to get, as you can see, a bunch of different stuff, but mostly a bunch of herbs, right? And then you're also getting some gleaming transmutation, you're getting some of the other transmutation as well. So each one of these is kind of going to give you a little bit of side product, or byproduct as they call it, which is this particular material. So you can kind of smack two things with one. But if we do this one, right, we're looking at 517 here, just to give you a show. And then we go up to 41. So 24 is all we got from that one, right? Only 24 gleaming transmutation. So in reality, and that's about 20 again. So we would have to do 4 of these to be able to get one blasphemite. And on a daily crafting cooldown, that means you have to wait 4 days to be able to make one blasphemite. if you want to get herbs out of it as well and some of the other transmutations. So that's important to look at. Now this one, Ominous Transmutation, I know it's a lot of words and I might mess around with them a bit. This one in particular also gives about 20 or 30, but sometimes I've seen it give way more. As you can see, it just gave about 70. And we can see here 654. And then we went up to 723. So it's like, this one is more likely to be 1 or 2 crafts unless you're really, really unlucky. And it uses these, which is another byproduct of doing other transmutations. But you can also see, and this is very important, right? We're crafting this one in particular, but it's not giving any of these Ominous Transmutation at all. Which means that this is limited in terms of how many of these that you have. So you can't just be like, okay, well, I'm going to take this one because it's best at making Gleaming Transmutation to be able to get my diamonds. You have to do some of the other ones no matter what. Like, you have no choice, right? But you either have that option as, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and use some of these to get particular kinds of materials, or I'm just going to use, let's say, these 2 other ones because I don't care much for these, because I'm going more for the Ominous because I want to make the diamonds, right? Then you can say I want to do that instead. And here you can say, okay, I'm going to use 6 and 6 to get Ominous Transmutation, and you get 12, right? So that's fine. You use one charge on making enough for 1 charge of this, right? And then that's two charges that you've used. And then maybe you have enough for this. This is on a separate crafting cooldown though. But you have to be very particular on what you want to do, because each of these use different transmutation. And each transmutation comes from doing other kinds of thaumaturgy and transmutations. So this is going to be an absolute nightmare figuring out prices in between these eventually. It's going to be a nightmare. I already know. But I also think, because of the fact that this seems so complex and complicated, and based on all kinds of stuff, this could turn into something that's great for an alt army. I will say, though, these particular transmutation are currently bind on pickup. Every single one of them. So you're not going to be able to make 10 characters and go for one in particular, send it over to another tune, and you'll be fine. That's not going to work like that. But you could use one, like if you have 5 alchemists, right? Then you can say, okay, on this particular tune, I will try and go for the diamond crafting. Or on this particular tune, I would much rather go for, making herbs or ore or other kinds of materials, right? That's what you could go for too, because you have to pick and choose what you actually want to go for. And some of these are combinations of each other, because you can see this one in particular. This one gives you leather and it gives you herbs. So, but no matter what, you're always going to get these. It's just, you can either speed run it and get it in 1 or 2 charges, or you can take a long time and get other things as well that you need in other places of the profession, and it'll take 2, 3, or 4 days. So there's a lot of ways to go about it. But no matter what, you're always going to be able to make these. But still, this is going to be based on the cheapest way to get there. And from what I can tell, it takes 1 or 2 full days to make one of these. And that's if you just go 100% into it. And it also depends on your luck. So there's a lot of that. But that's like the new part of Alchemy. And I honestly think it's pretty interesting. And I think this thaumaturgy thing has the potential for just baseline being worth something. Because you can say, okay, well, I'm going to take this rank 1 herb right here. And I'm going to thaumaturgy 20 of these. And let's see what I get. Boom. I get myself a bunch of ore, a bunch of leather, and some other transmutation that I can use elsewhere, right? So you could basically say, okay, well, if that leather and if that ore is harder to get or is worth more than 20 of these, then there's a potential for flipping one kind of material into another kind of material and potentially making quite a lot of gold here. But I also think this is nice because this potentially removes the situations where we have like one or two kinds of materials that are just absolutely useless, right? This will make sure that it always has some kind of a use, and it'll help other materials and take certain materials and turn them into less. Because you can see that we took 20 of these and we made actually, let's see how many did we make? 5, 10, 14, 19, 23, 28, and then 32. We made 32 materials plus the transmutation out of 20 herbs. So we actually made more than we had in terms of numbers, but obviously it all depends on the value. And you can also see that we got rank 2 materials from a rank 1, right? This is pretty far into alchemy, of course. I think early on this is going to be much harder to do, but each one of these materials, as I said, gives you different stuff. You can see here we got some other ore, and we got some skinning stuff, which is very different. And this is the rank 1 materials, and we're getting rank 2. And it's the same thing if we end up using, okay, let's say rank 2 materials. At the moment, it looks like you're going to have to use concentration. Unfortunately, that does not work at the moment. But you get the point, right? Potentially, you're going to be able to use concentration, and then you can turn rank 2 materials into rank 3. But you can also use rank 3 materials to turn into other rank 3 materials. So, on top of this and its baseline being a system that turns one kind of materials into another, you also get your transmutation that you can use to do that all over again for like 1, 2, or 3 steps. And you're going to have to do that if you go into any kind of transmutations in this particular profession. But you also have all the usual like potions and flasks and files. Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is semi-broken on the alpha at the moment, but we're going to get a lot of the same stuff, and it's very similar to what we had in Dragonflight in terms of what you actually see here. We have 2 new systems, and it's for potions and flasks. Well, new, at least they exist. It's basically a buff that you can get that stacks up to 10. And you get a certain amount of multi-craft for each time you craft potions, right? So if you make 100 of these or something like that, then after the first 10, you'll have an extra 60 multi-craft, which is pretty cool. And on flasks, this will actually be resourcefulness instead. And this won't start out being able to go up to 10. This is something that will start out, I think, at 5. And then as you get more knowledge points, it'll increase. Which I think it's a good addition. I think it's a pretty cool little small addition. Unfortunately, we do not have any working profession tools, so we won't be able to see what they can actually give us. But from the profession tools that I've been able to actually find in the alpha, it seems very similar to what we've had in Dragonflight. But we can't equip them yet. Just to give you a little show here, we have a blacksmithing tool here, a blacksmith's hammer, and if I go to equip it, and you can see it lights up this particular one here, and it just says this item cannot be equipped. So we don't have the opportunity of testing those quite yet. The additional thing is concentration is finally in the game, and these have about a 5 to 6 minute recharge timer. Each one of these, they are in a recharge timer, and they are 2 separate things for each of your tunes, okay? So for your professions that you have 2 different recharge timers. So you have 500 for blacksmithing, for example, and then 500 for alchemy. And currently on the alpha, I haven't been able to figure out how Ingenuity works. Ingenuity is what is supposed to be able to refund all of your concentration that you spend, or some of it. But I haven't been able to increase this above 0, so I don't think it's fully implemented yet. So we can't fully test this, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think some of it, a few points. Well, it does actually say you have a whatever percentage chance to have an ingenious breakthrough when you concentrate on a craft, refunding all concentration spent. Not some of it. It does say all of it. But obviously, this is the alpha, and that might change. But currently, it says all of it. So if you spend 84 and this procs, then you might get 84 back. But at the moment, if this is, from what I've been able to test so far, this is a 5 to 6 minute recharge timer, which means it can take anywhere from 41 hours to like 45 or 46 hours to recharge 500 of these. And they do not stack above 500, which means that you have to be on the lookout for how many of these that you have, because if you go above 500, then you're just wasting them, right? But that's about what we have in Alchemy at the moment. We can't really test too much other stuff. We can't test too much of the profession stats and things like that because they're not fully implemented yet. But expect to see a lot of the similar stuff. We do also have PvP flasks, which is cool to see, right? Vicious flask of classical spirits. Drink to increase your mana regeneration by 8% whenever you have not cast a beneficial spell. And then you gain honor gains increased by 15%, right? And then drink to increase honor gains by 15% can be used in all rated. So like PvP flasks, I think that's cool, right? I mean, that's pretty dope. So, but this might change, obviously, just saying, but this is at least a baseline look at how Alchemy is put together, which is, so far, I'm pretty excited. It looks cool.